Cheating in video games is a pandemic. This is Thoughts by the Fire. It's a series where I just sit down and I riff in one take in front of my AI generated fireplace. And today I have a few topics I'm going to be talking about. We're going to be talking about cheating in video games, AI, and specifically the oh my god, player versus environment, PVE in Arc Raiders, and the general PVE sense as well. So AI, a lot of people don't like it. A lot of people are bucking up against it, and just as many people are going all for it. And then you have people that are kind of in the middle. Some people are letting it just take over everything that they do. Some people are specifically rejecting it in any way that they can to not use it at all. And then you have people like me, which I find myself somewhere in the middle of the road. Prime example, I work in advertising, and a lot of the guys that are in the office with me are just letting AI run amok and generate their full ad set. Well, that's a little bit of a problem. Because let's say they generate this full ad set, they present it to the client, and the client's like, you know what, I like it, but I want this one little change. Well, now you go back to ChatGPT or whatever program, and you're like, hey, can you just change this one little thing? ChatGPT has to generate the whole thing from scratch. It doesn't just have a composite of the image saved where it can go in and edit the little thing. It's got a good memory, and it's going to generate something pretty close, but it is going to generate an entirely new image, and maybe that little tweak is going to offset something else in the image. And so you're essentially giving up full creative control. You're letting the AI have that full control over your creative output. And I just feel that's unacceptable. I dislike it. Unfortunately, I don't really have control over what they do. I don't think it paints the company in a good light. Because people can tell AI still, AI is getting good, but you can just tell when it's AI. What I do, my process, I use AI more as kind of a conceptualization tool. So what I'll do is I will plug in all the information for the campaign, and maybe I have a kind of a general idea. I'll feed it some ideas for what I have for the campaign, and then I'll just have it generate me an ad set, and whatever it spits out, if it looks good, great. And if not, maybe I'll get a couple of other ideas out of it. And then I take that idea and I go into my own editor and I build the ad set from scratch, closely copying what the AI did, maybe making some small improvements here and there. But I make sure I'm using commercial-free fonts, commercial-free assets. I'm doing everything to make sure that there's not going to be any issues with the ad set in the future. And on top of that, because I'm creating it, it's copyrightable. That's one thing that I believe the patent office or the copyright office, whoever's in charge of copyrights in the United States, unless there's been a ruling, I think there's some maybe court cases going on. I don't know. That's something I heard where they might be making it to where you can copyright AI generated content. But as far as I know right now, in the big 2026, you cannot copyright AI generated material. So that's just something that I look at. I'm looking at the big picture. So one, if I take this ad set that I made to the client and they don't like something, I have full control to tweak that specific little item in there that they don't like. And so it makes it a lot easier. I have more control. I just feel a lot more secure in what I'm doing there. And that's kind of where I see a lot of people messing up. There's been games where the developers just shoehorn in complete AI generated stuff. I think that was one of the things with Arc Raiders, which we'll be talking about a little bit later, where they put in a lot of like AI generated speech, and then later they took it out and put in like actual voice actors, I think. And I think that kind of unfettered, just pure AI, which I think is this AI slop that we all talk about, I think that's slop. I agree with those sentiments from people on that end of the spectrum. However, I am not against AI completely. I think that it brings a democratization to a lot of things. For instance, Suno. Okay, Suno is a music generator that I play around with and I use. And for $10 a month, I can generate like hundreds of songs. And again, a lot of it's going to be slop. I'll sit there and I'll generate probably 100 variations, maybe I would say 20 to 40 variations to get a product that I'm like, okay, this actually sounds good. I like it. But I mean, with boomers and stuff, there's all this AI music. Like you see Joe Rogan, he's always trying to get people to listen to this AI song that he heard, where it's like a modern rap song in an old school Motown funk type of vibe. That's boomers for you. Boomers are enamored by technology. But I think where you just let AI do the complete process and you don't shape it and mold it, that's where you're going wrong. I think that AI allows us to achieve things that normally you would have had to pay somebody, and be that as it may, it's just the way that it's going. AI is here. The Pandora's box has been opened. I know a lot of people are upset because, oh, well, artists aren't getting paid. Well, I don't want to be insensitive, but it is what it is. Okay, that's all I'll say on that. It is what it is. AI allows you to get a product instantly. I don't have to wait for someone else to sit down and work around their schedule. Once again, it brings control to me. I'm able to control the output, whereas I would pay an artist some odd dollars, maybe $20. I mean, artists aren't cheap. Maybe I pay an artist $20, then I'd have to wait maybe a day or two, at least a couple hours at the minimum. If they're just ready to jump on it, I'd have to wait, and then I'd have to get something that maybe I need something tweaked. You know what I mean? Are they going to charge me for revisions? How many revisions do I get? Or I could just give $20 and get ChatGPT Plus, and their AI image generation has come leaps and bounds from what it was just maybe a year ago. It's crazy how good it is now. And I can get, as many revisions as I need from that. And that's going to carry me through as many projects as I need. I can get as many works as I need from it, as many revisions. It just makes sense. Financially, it makes sense, and from a control aspect of me controlling my project, it makes sense. And then I don't have to worry about hurting. That's actually one thing that really got me, is like whenever an artist would give me something that they had made, I always felt bad like giving it back to them and be like, hey, actually I want to change this. Like I always felt like maybe there was that aspect from them where they were like, oh, it's not good enough for you. And so I dislike that. So back to Suno. If you like a particular song, you can take that song, plug it into ChatGPT, and have it give you a genre breakdown of, hey, what is this song? What makes this song this song? Can you break it down? And that kind of allows your understanding to expand as you understand, okay, what these different elements are. Because I'm not a music major. I don't have any education in music. I can play some instruments. I kind of have a very, very layman's understanding of music, but I don't know what different instruments are, how these compositions work together. And so AI can explain that to me, and then I understand how to articulate it, and then I can take that and put it into Suno and create songs that are similar to what I like. So I don't have to worry about going on music hunts and finding songs that I like. I can just kind of start making my own music similar to the hits I already know I like. And that way I'm not running the same song on repeat over and over. Although what I do notice is if I'm doing a long session generating songs in Suno, I look back and all of a sudden all these songs that I thought were great, they all kind of sound the same. So again, it's all about your creative process. I think the better able you are to manipulate your prompts and really manipulate the outcome of what the AI is generating, the better off you are. I don't look at AI as just a one size fits all. I just click a button and it goes. You have to understand how the AI is working in order to get out a good product in order to use it. So that's my thoughts on AI. I think it's something that it's here and it's here to stay, and it is getting better. They say that the hallucinations are going down, so it's not like learning off of itself as much anymore. Although the returns are not as big as they were. I think ChatGPT 4 was like leaps and bounds ahead of the 3, but now 5 isn't as big of a jump from 4. So I don't know where it's going, but I do know that it does give a lot more power to the individual for us to be able to conceptualize ideas a lot quicker. And I think it's an overall good thing. I'm sorry I can't say anything negative about it. Now, moving into Arc Raiders, I gotta be honest with you. I don't think I've heard a community bitch and complain more than the PVEers and Arc Raiders. Oh my god. I don't see it as much because my algorithms have kind of filtered out the Arc Raiders stuff as I don't really play it as much anymore. But it just kind of lends itself in general. Like, I just dislike these people that bitch and complain about everything. Like, please learn to accept things. That's the, what is that? That's the first stage of grief, is acceptance. You guys got to start accepting stuff. That's actually one of my main mottos is AAA, man. Accept it, adapt to it, and accelerate past it. AAA, man, trademark it. Accept, adapt, accelerate, because the only constant in life is change. Which I guess, you know, if I'm asking you to just accept that PVE, they're never going to change anything in Arc Raiders, I guess that's counterintuitive, but you get what I mean. So a lot of people, they want this PVE in Arc Raiders, and I'm going to tell you right now that is just, it won't work. Maybe you guys can help me out in the comments. What do you mean when you say you want PVE purely? You want to load into one of these maps. Excuse me. You want to load into one of these maps and just fight Arc. Now, I remember a time when I was scared of the Shredders. Man, the Shredders were like the worst thing ever. And I was like, they're bringing them to all the maps. Ugh. But now I can load into Salamantis. I'll take out a Shredder with a Pharaoh maybe 4 or 5 shots. You just shoot the turbines, take cover. It's simple now. I've learned them. They're easy, just like all the other Arc. At this point in the game, the Arc are not a threat. They are a layer that is added on top of the game just to make sure that, one, the environment has life, and two, to spice up the gun battles. You know what I mean? Like, if the Arc weren't there and it was just PvP purely, then gun battles would be a lot more predictable. But that's what keeps the game dynamic. Is you could be in a gun battle, all of a sudden a random pop comes in, all of a sudden you have a Firefly get in the mix, and it's just the luck of the draw. One side is gonna get they're gonna get the short end of the stick when that inevitably happens. But that's what keeps the fights dynamic. It keeps a almost random number generator in the experience. You never know what you're gonna get when you load into Arc Raiders. And in that sense, a lot of the game mechanics and stuff lend themselves to that kind of gambling aesthetic. And I think that's what made the game so successful in the first place, is that unknown. You know, there's not a known outcome where there's just a OP kit. There have been OP guns like the Venator and the Toro before they got nerfed. And the Bobcat right now seems to be the overwhelming gun, especially all those duped ones with the Compensator 3 and everything on them that just make those things lasers. It's crazy. But Arc Raiders still remains a very dynamic experience. Now, with that in mind, you load in and it's just Arc. You know how boring that would be? You know how easy that is? Where's the challenge? So you want to go in and loot items to build your stash and kill Arc. I mean, I don't know. Correct me if I'm wrong. Does that really seem like it would be fun? It seems like that would get really boring really quick. That's part of another reason what makes Arc Raiders so fun is that amygdala response. Your threat center in your brain just always on edge. It could be very quiet. See, that's the thing. The Arc are loud. You know where the Arc are. You know when there's an Arc around. There's a lot of audio cues and visual cues to the Arc. It's easy to sneak around them. You do really have to catch the short end of the stick to get cornered or something by the Arc. Once again, these are computer programs. They're easy to outsmart, just like the Shredder I said. What really keeps you on the edge of your seat is you could be looting, it could be completely quiet. All of a sudden, boom, 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 someone snuck up on you. And a lot of people are like, oh, you're a rat. Oh, like there's some kind of like honor code or gentleman's agreement or something. Spare me. It's the game. That's the whole concept. That's literally the concept of the game, and that's what keeps it fresh and interesting. So when everyone keeps bitching and complaining and like, oh, I left because there's not a PvE, I kept getting ratted out the extra, it's part of the experience. That's what makes the game great. And if you can't accept that, then you're better off on single player games where all you are going to face is the computer. You know, I mean, Tarkov did cave and they put in a PvE mode. Granted, I have not played Tarkov, so I don't know exactly how that looks and if it's still enjoyable. I don't know how hard the PC or the computer was in Tarkov, if the AI generated enemies are a challenge or not. I've seen some clips that insinuate they are, so maybe PvE works on Tarkov, but in Arc Raiders, I just don't think the Arc are that much of a threat. Now, I will say this: I think there is room for PvE in Arc Raiders, counterintuitive to what I just said, and that would come in the form of maybe a campaign or some kind of like story. Maybe they could do something how you know how in Modern Warfare or Modern Warfare 2, the one that came out back in 2009, they introduced those Spec Ops missions. Those were fun. They were almost like story modes, but they didn't have like a full-on story. It was just kind of like missions where you went up against the computer generated enemies like a campaign mission and you had an objective to complete. I think if they maybe slimmed down the maps, like they maybe made a track through some of these maps, because they are big maps, with an objective and set enemies to take out, I think that could work. I think if you bring that in, I think that would be really fun, because it doesn't just drop you into a map with no objectives. All you do is loot and shoot. You know, that you need the PvE or you need the PvP for that. But kind of, you know, the tutorial level, when you first start up the game for the first time, you have that tutorial level where you go through, you see the raider, he shoots at you, you dodge behind the thing, and then you go into the room, you loot a couple of items, you pry the door, and then you get knocked out from behind. And then you wake up and you're like, oh, you got to rebuild your little kit. And then you make it to the extract, you kill a couple of Arc enemies. That was cool. That was like, it was like a little story mission, you know? If they put something like that together on a bigger scale, that's where you're going to get some good PvE content out of what that game offers. I think that's where it's at right there. I also, wasn't there word that they were going to bring like a social hub? You know, you could walk around Speranza and talk to people and, you know, not have to worry about other raiders and stuff. I think that would be cool as well. If they bring in some kind of a social hub and then little campaign-esque missions. I think that the lore and the story behind Arc Raiders could be developed so much more. And if you maintain that PvPE element that the game is currently, but you add in maybe these little missions where you get more elements of the story, you know, you can get maybe voice recordings and stuff like that. That would be so much fun. Imagine the tracks you could do through Stella Montes. Imagine the tracks you could do through any of the maps. It would be amazing. And that segues me into the next point about the game, is they need to bring in another Stella Monte-esque map. That's all I play. I'm a PvP player, and I cannot stand these big open maps. I was talking about it with my buddy on stream the other night. If you could go prone, I would play the big maps. I would not mind it. But as it stands, you go out in these maps, and if you're trying to get across open expanses, you're just a target. You cannot utilize a lot of the cover that's around, because crouching, you're just still too tall. If you could go prone in these big environments, maybe there's a little bit more cover. I don't want to, but again, I want the maps to feel natural. I don't want there to be all this astroturfed cover everywhere. But if you could just go prone, I think that would up the playability for a lot of these bigger maps. But I think the bigger maps are tuned more to that PvE crowd, you know, and that's why I don't really play them. I stay on Stella Montes. I like the urban environment. I like that kind of door-to-door CQB-esque gameplay. It's very, very fun. Stella Montes is a masterpiece. And I know that they said they're bringing out this other map, I think Frozen Trail, and that's supposed to come out, and I just think it's going to be more of the same. It's going to be these big open maps, and they really touched on something when they did Stella Montes, and I guarantee you, if they brought in another map like Stella Montes that incorporates that close range CQB urban kind of warfare thing, the player count would skyrocket again. They introduced Riven Tides, which I mean, it's got the hotel, but I mean, I don't want, I want an entire Stella Montes map. I don't want a map that's got, you know, the interior area like Blue Gate, or it's got the hotel like Riven Tides. They really expected Riven Tides to bring up the player count, but I don't think it performed as well as they were hoping it did. And I played the map. It was cool, but it got old quick. I think Blue Gate still has more replayability than Riven Tides does. Riven Tides, I missed the mark in my opinion. And I think once again, if they bring in a close range map like Stella Montes, it is going to bring that player count back up, and it's going to maintain it a lot more, because again, the replayability on Stella Montes is just, even now I load in and it's still fun. It still feels fresh. So that's my thoughts on Arc Raiders and PVE. People are going to complain. It's just what it is. Unfortunately, you just got to deal with it. I just want to tell these people to shut up and accept it, but you know, people are going to complain. And you know, hey, that's how things do change. So maybe I'm wrong. I'll accept that. Lastly, I wanted to talk about cheating in video games, because this is something that bothers a lot of people at Arc Raiders as well. And this is something I've seen across every single game, is cheating. It's crazy. Currently, lately, I've been playing a lot of Counter-Strike. And Counter-Strike is a fun game, but it's rife with cheaters. There's a short that I did where there's a guy that was spin botting, and just if you don't know what that is, there's a specific hack or cheat in Counter-Strike, the engine there, where you can jump and spin at the same time. It's all automated, like the computer does it for you. You just got to move around the map, and as you're spinning, you're shooting with perfect accuracy. So you just jump around the map, your model is spinning, and then as you're jumping, if someone comes into your range, the computer program automatically shoots at them, instant headshot, they're done. It's really annoying. A lot of people don't like it. And I gotta agree, man. It takes the game for what it was intended to be and bastardizes it, turns it into an unfun experience. And a lot of people bitch and complain about that too. Now, in relation to Counter-Strike specifically, Valve seems to be very hands-off at this current point in time. It's just rampant there. You can hack or cheat with impunity in Counter-Strike 2 at this point in time, in direct contrast to a place like Epic Games. Epic Games does what they call ban waves, where you can cheat and you'll be fine for a little bit, but they have different methods of detection, and what they'll do is they'll flag you and they'll confirm that you cheated, and then once they build up enough of those people, they do a ban wave where they ban everyone all at once. And so there's not any direct like, oh, I did this and this is what got me detected. It keeps it ambiguous, so it's harder for you as a cheater to detect what got you detected. Because there's this, it's crazy. It's like a Cold War. There's literal companies built on developing cheats for games. This is like the problem. It's on an industrial scale. There are companies that develop cheats, and so these companies, in contrast, they have to have their own anti-cheat developers that are actively working to develop patches to patch out the cheats that the developers are patching into it's a whole back and forth, and it'll like never be over. It's actually insane. So in relation to that, it sucks, and there are those situations where people get cheated and they just either quit the game or they complain and have a really loud voice online. And then you have a subsect of people who they get cheated on so many times, and they're like, well, if it's happening to me, I feel like nothing's happening, and this just seems to be open season. I'm gonna join in. And you know, I feel like that's wrong. You know, I'm not gonna sit here and say cheating is right. Cheating is wrong, and it does make the game unfun. It does remove the whole point of the game, but at the same time, there is a layer of it that is fun. For the first little bit, cheating can be a fun experience, and if you're someone who's like, "Oh, I would never do that," you're leaving some of the gaming experience off of the table. If you've never wanted to have a power fantasy or just be unbeatable, I don't know what's wrong with you. If you've never had the fantasy, uh, being able to cheat online does give you that. Now, there are the consequences, and you do it at your own risk. And I'm not advocating that you do it. It breaks all terms and conditions, and I'm against cheating on all fronts. I don't think you should do it. But at the same time, I think you're leaving an experience on the table if you don't utilize what's there, especially in an environment like Counter-Strike where it seems to just be unchecked. Now, on the flip side of that, I will say this. I think that people take it a little bit too serious in terms of being upset about it. Because at the end of the day, we'll focus in on Counter-Strike specifically and their Premier. This is the built-in kind of ranked gameplay for Counter-Strike, okay? You're playing Premier, and what are you playing it for? What is the end goal, okay? You play the game because you think it's fun. And if you win, the numbers go up, and if you lose, number go down. And that's it. And the numbers kind of regulate the matchmaking so you can get placed against people of a similar level of you. And obviously cheaters kind of circumvent that system, and people who cheat and get up to a certain number, they turn off the cheats and they get trashed because obviously they don't have that skill. They're playing above their skill level, and the cheats are allowing them to do that. But at the end of the day, it's literally just numbers. Now I can see where if it's a pro event and there's like money or an actual prize or some kind of recognition, there's actually something tangible on the line, unacceptable. You know what I mean? I get it. There's stakes there. But for your average Joe Blow who's just playing for number go up, number go down, you can't get too upset about it. At the end of the day, it's just a game, and cheating is wrong. But essentially, that's just the nature of it. It's part of the game. When you play games online, you're accepting the full experience. If there was something that these companies could do, and there is something that these companies can do, make no mistake, if they really wanted to stamp out cheating, I feel like they really could. I know games like Valorant take a particularly aggressive stance on it. They do like some kind of kernel level anti-cheat or something like that. I don't know. And other companies do different things. I feel like Fortnite, Valorant, Arc Raiders, I feel like they really do try to make the experience as cheater free as they can. But again, it's that back and forth, whereas Valve, I've seen some solutions that they could implement, but it's just non-existent. And my thought process is that cheating just isn't a big enough problem where it affects their bottom line to where they need to take an issue. And that's the thing. That's how companies are going to move. When something is impacting their profitability is when they are going to actually take action on it. When the cost outweighs or when the benefit outweighs the cost, or whatever, you know what I'm trying to say. When it becomes enough of a problem that it is actually worth it to spend the money on it, is when they'll do something about it. Now, Counter-Strike Go had Overwatch, where you had some of the top rated players doing Overwatch on games. So if they saw something sus, boom, instant ban. And you kind of have that live human moderation. Whereas Counter-Strike 2, I believe they said they're doing something like AI. So the AI will generate, or it'll look for certain factors and stuff, and make the determination from there. But obviously it's either turned off or it sucks, or the people know how to manipulate what the AI is detecting to not get banned. Because again, it's bad. Counter-Strike 2 has a bad cheating problem, the worst I've ever seen. It's crazy. But yeah, that again, that's part of the social contract that you take when you play on PC. And I want to say something too about the console players. Console players think they're immune to this. were you not around in 2009 when the challenge lobbies were going on in Modern Warfare 2? The modders and hackers butchered Modern Warfare 2 back in the day. Like, there was legit lobbies and stuff like that, but to think that just because you're on console, you are immune to what is going on, you're not. There's stuff you can plug into the controller. There's jailbreaks you can do for the consoles. So if you're sitting on console, I'm superior, I don't have to worry about that stuff because I just turn crossplay off. You're a fucking retard. You have no understanding. You're the kind of guy, you're getting cheated on and you don't even know. Because a lot of people think cheating is this blatant thing. A lot of people are just running walls and you don't even know, because it's not about aiming. It's not about being blatant. It's just about knowing where the battle is going to take place and being prepared for the battle. That's why if you can sneak up on somebody in Arc Raiders, you pretty much do one, because you position the battle. If you get surprised in Arc Raiders, you already took the first couple of shots. Now you have to worry about healing. Now you have to worry about positioning. Now you got to worry about all these different factors, whereas your enemy is already locked in. They have their cover. They have the first shot on you, so they're still full health. It's very difficult to come back from that. And so cheating probably is even a lot deeper than a lot of people even know, because people complain about what they know about. They're complaining about the blatant cheating that's going on, but there's way more cheating than you even know about, just in the simple form of just getting information. And it doesn't even have to be walls. There's just radars that you can get that are even less intrusive, where it shows you an overlay of the map and you can just know where people are on the map. So yeah, it is what it is. Anyways, that's all I have for right now. Again, these are just kind of thoughts that I want to get out there. Thoughts that are in my head around the current time. So as I get better at articulating these thoughts and I start having more thoughts, because sometimes my head's a little empty, I try to be as chill as possible and stress-free and try to keep the cortisol low and just kind of autopilot life sometimes. As I get more thoughts in my head and I get better at articulating them, these uploads will probably become more frequent. But until then, peace out. Love it or hate it, these are the facts.